No, let's keep this.
we start?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome to the Housing Commission's August 2nd, 2023 regular Housing Commission meeting. This is a hybrid meeting with Housing Commission members, city staff, members of the public participating in the Oak Conference Room and via Zoom. I will call the meeting to order at 6:52 p.m. So we're going to take roll call now. We're going to introduce the staff and Housing Commission member present. Heather?
Yes.
Jacqueline Campbell?
Present.
Adriana Walker?
Present, I'm invoking the AB 2449, taking care of toddlers at my residence.
Thank you, Adriana. Virginia Patillo?
Present.
Nevada Merriman? John Pimentel? Absent. Oh, hi, John. Please, let me see. Okay, I think he's present. Is that John?
It is.
I don't recognize your name. It is him.
Oh, is he? He might be.
Is that him?
John, are you at City Hall right now?
I can't.
He's
Hi,
probably
John.
trying to find us.
We're in the rec center.
Where are you guys? Rec center.
Yes.
Oh, really?
I'll head over there.
And I am present. There's no one. And we shall wait for John.
Yes. Let's see. We might have been in the meeting.
We were here in the last meeting. Okay, yeah.
And are we gonna be in?
Yeah. We're just waiting for Commissioner Bennett.
Yeah.
We wanna just.
Yeah, get it.
Okay. Yes. And then.
Yeah, everybody's good stuff on the environment. And John. He's trying to do.
I did the same thing. But the gymnasium and the.
And for the staff, we have, so John, you're here. Yes. For the staff, I have to, here we have is, Erin Romero. Is she here? No, she's not here. Management analyst Adam Patterson. Housing manager Tim Wong, welcome. And assistant community development director Deanna Chow. Is she here? And City Council Good City Consultant.
Here.
Okay, thank you. So, Adam was gonna provide the instructions for the housing commission. So Adam Patterson will be providing instructions to the housing commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Chair Nguyen, and members of the Housing Commission. Welcome everyone to the August 2nd meeting of the Housing Commission. And thank you for attending. Staff will engage cameras and microphones to make presentations and respond to members of the Housing Commission. For members of the public who are in attendance and wish to provide public comment on an item on tonight's agenda, after the chair calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak on. For virtual participants, please engage the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. For those who are calling in from a landline or cell phone, please press *9. And for those in person, please complete a speaker card and bring to my desk. That concludes the instructions, and I return you to the chair. Thank you.
Under public comment, the public may address the housing commission on any such. Okay. Under public comment, the public may address the housing commission on any subject not listed in the agenda. Each speaker may address the housing commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. You are not required to provide your name or city of residence, but it is helpful. The housing commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the housing commission cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up in the public comment other than to provide general information. Adam, do we have any public comment?
We do.
Hi, I'm, oh, sorry, are you calling me? No, you're.
Yes, Julie Shanson. Let me just get the timer.
Housing Commission members, it is a thrill to be back in public with you after so long. And guests. I'm here as a member of Bellhaven Action. We did a lot of work with housing advocacy in the Bellhaven neighborhood, specifically around the Gateway Rising project. So in February, we had 2 or 3 different sessions to help people get on the interest list. And now that the project is leasing up, we're getting questions. You know, am I going to be called? What can I do? It's very exciting. We took a tour on Wednesday. It's very exciting. But one of the things we're noticing is that all of the very affordable units went to project-based vouchers. So that the 51 units that were reserved for the local preference are being leased out at 50 to 60% of the AMI from 2019. This means that if you are a single mom who works at Jack in the Box and has 3 kids, you cannot afford a 2-bedroom in the new complex. I think this is a huge issue that needs to be covered by policy when people take BMR funds from the city of Menlo Park. And that's going to take time, but I want to call your attention to it. When the BMR policy last came before council, people stood up and said, this is going to be an issue. And now this is an issue. I would like you to strongly consider setting up a local assistance fund to help bridge that gap between what the people who are making our sandwiches and serving us our coffee make and their ability to live in the housing that we have built ostensibly for them. I could say more. I could go on and on. I feel really strongly about this. And we live in one of the most expensive areas, as we know, in the country, and just minimum wage is not keeping up. So anyone who doesn't have a white collar job is not going to be able to afford our affordable housing. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, so the first presentation is on Menlo Park Housing Resources.
We have Latrice Taylor here from Samaritan House, who will give a presentation on her organization's work on Menlo Park residents.
Good evening. Thank you for the invitation to come and present to you about Samaritan House, the core agency that serves Menlo Park, as well as to let you know, first, thank you. Thank you very much for the funding that you set aside for residents here in Menlo Park. But I thought we'd also want to let you know a little bit about what we do, and then give you a report out on how WRF funds helped support families in staying here in Menlo Park. So, I'm just gonna talk. Samaritan House, you've probably heard about us, and you've probably seen a whole lot of different names You may have heard of Safe Harbor Shelter, you may have seen Worker Resource Center, our clinics, but all of those still are Samaritan House. So when people go to Samaritan House, we are one of the, well, excuse me, two of the core agencies that serve as the emergency safety network for all of San Mateo County. And one of our offices, as I said, does cover Menlo Park and East Palo Alto. Our other central office in the city of San Mateo covers Belmont, Burlingame, Foster City, Hillsborough, Millbrae, San Carlos, and San Mateo, and we now have a Burlingame annex. We also, when people walk in or call in, because we're trying to maintain safety protocols according to COVID since March 2020, we would allow help to be distributed over the phone. So we wanted to try to maintain safety protocols. But you start with a core, and we always say anybody in this county, when you need any type of help, go to a core, go to a core, go to a core is what we always say. You don't even have to remember what city that core covers. Just go to the core, because the first question that's asked is what city do you reside in, and then what is your problem? What's bringing you to us? Because if it's not, if you don't reside in that city, then we get you to the right one. But if it's us right here, then we say, what's your problem? The two main things are financial assistance and food. Those are the big ones. It was already referenced that we are in, let's see, this county is the most expensive county in the state of California, more expensive than Beverly Hills. I don't know if you know that. We are also the fourth most expensive county in the country. Think about that. Only a little over 700,000 people live in this county, and we're the fourth most expensive in the country. And the region itself, Bay Area region, 12 counties, is the most expensive region in the United States today. It takes $150,000 for a family of four to meet basic necessities. So just to pay your rent, your gas, eat food, go to work, go to school, come home, have dinner, sit down and start it all over again, maybe pay your utilities. You don't get to go out and have movies. You don't get to go, do nice things. $150,000. That's what our folks are dealing with on a regular basis. So when they come to a core, this county is very beautiful in how it coordinates in getting help to its residents and doing some of those things. When we assess, we determine what's that financial assistance. We talk about food, because even once we get past the problem, we assess what else do you need? Because sometimes people don't even know what they need. We had one gentleman say he needed $300 for utilities pre-COVID. Turns out he needs to pay his mortgage of $3,000, and he was a cancer patient. And we had to help him because he didn't want to ask. It takes a lot for residents, especially those living in Menlo Park, who are supposed to have a certain amount of money. It takes a lot to now come in the door and ask for help. There is a level of shame that is attached when people come into any core agency asking for help because they thought, I did it right. I should be retired. I should be able to just rest now. But that's not what we're seeing. And now COVID has made it worse. And now we've come out of COVID to the new normal where we're dealing with inflation and we're dealing with high gas prices. And so people who were getting by check to check pre-COVID, now I'm seeing people who were making six figures have nothing and have to start all over again. But Samaritan House and the Core Service Agency Network, we're all together and trying to help people figure out how to deal with the emergency first, and then what do we do next so that they can not only just survive, but thrive. So that's where it starts with our client services. And then if we don't provide the service at Samaritan House, we're the ones who have to connect you, because our biggest service is information referral. We connect to the organization that's the expert. We're not the legal experts. We connect you with community legal services or legal aid. We're not the experts in domestic violence. We call CORA. But we have to know everything that goes on in this county, so we know how to get the best information and services to your residents, our residents. Next slide. I've been doing this 9 years. And I get a little passionate about the fact that every person has a story. And the services that we've come up with are what residents are telling us they need. So we have children's services. We have Kids Closet where people can come in and shop. It was actually, I think it was a buyer from Neiman Marcus or Saks who said, let's design this just like any shopping experience. And so people can come in, they have a listing of however many clothes, items they can get per child, shirts, dresses, Halloween costumes, bathing suits. And also then we have seasonal programs. So right now, back to school is coming. So that's right, Saturday. So we're looking at about 2,000 plus backpacks we should be able to give out from kindergarten to high school. And not only just for our families, but any partner agencies that reach out to us and say they need backpacks for their folks, they contact us as well, because it is all about community. And then during the Thanksgiving and Christmas season, of course, we provide food so that they can have their turkey and they can have all the sides, as well as gifts. So they can go through Santa's Toy Shop at the event center, or we do one in East Palo Alto that's open to East Palo Alto and Menlo Park residents. Next. Project We Care. We have partnerships with schools all throughout the county where we're actually trying to develop empathy in our youth. So they do their own clothing drives, and it is all around a specific curriculum, but they do clothing and food drives. We have one school, one of the high schools that said, you know, breakfast is the most important. Let's do a donation around cereal. So they donated thousands of cereal boxes that we turned around and gave right back out to our families. Okay. And then kids meals. We do snacks and lunches for school pantries after school and summer camp programs. Even the school libraries, our main libraries, I want to say it was Menlo Park 1, but several of the libraries even reach out to us during the summer months and say, we just need to provide meals to folks in the community. All we say to any organization, not just individuals, but we'll say, just send me an email. We'll have you fill out a food request and we'll partner with that agency. As long as they're willing to come pick it up, we'll provide the meals. And let's see, I'll talk food in just a second. Go ahead. So I'll come back to food in a second. We have, because I'm also being mindful of your time, we have 2 free clinics, one in Redwood City and one in San Mateo. These clinics serve everyone in San Mateo County who does not have insurance. And everything I'm talking about is free. We do not charge for anything that I'm speaking about. We have a medical and dental director. We have a therapist on site, vision care. And then all these different other professionals, medical and dental professionals, donate their time. And so a lot of the work that we do is professionally led, but volunteer supported. So we got about, I believe, in total 150 staff, but we rely on, in this instance, about 100 clinic volunteers in different fields of medicine. And can't forget our food pharmacy. We were the first in the state to have a food pharmacy, which is where a doctor will find, oh, you have high blood pressure or diabetes. Well, you know, they give you a script saying, okay, you need to eat healthy. So that means you need leafy greens, you need to eat your brown rice. Well, now I gotta go to Safeway or Trader Joe's and then spend a little bit more money. Well, instead, they just walk right down the hallway and the food is there, located on site. So they follow what the doctor said in terms of eating healthy. And that's inclusive of, say, even yogurts. We choose yogurt that has no sugar. And not only do we do that for the patient, we do it for the whole family. Because it's no fun when you have the patient the one person in the family who has to eat healthy, and then the rest of us get to eat chocolate cake. No, we try to encourage healthy eating for the whole family. So they get their meat, their dairy, eggs, brown rice, fruits, vegetables, and then we also do some nice little extra treats that because we have a lot of volunteers and a lot of donations. So going into food. Or ultimate digital Samaritan House programs. Okay, that's mine, because it's my largest program. Coordinated entry system, so if you have unhoused individuals, they can go to any core. And I have what's called CES, coordinated entry system, diversion specialists who work with those who are unhoused or at risk of being unhoused. And so we coordinate every shelter bed, both single and families in this county. So we try to do it fairly and equitably, so no one is like standing out as at a shelter trying to get in, or any back doors. Don't do that. This county believed in coordinating that, so no matter which core they show up at, whoever scores highest. First, we talk about diversion, because shelter housing should be permanent solution first. If we can divert you to, say, your mother who lives in Philadelphia, we pay a plane ticket. We have flexible dollars to get you wherever you need to be. Doesn't mean paying for you to sleep on somebody's couch. Do we give you groceries? Do you need whatever it is? We do that so we can guarantee a permanent roof over your head for a specific time frame. Then all the shelter beds, be it single or family, those are left open for people who truly are homeless, truly have no other choice. The ones who are sleeping in their cars, the ones who are out on the street under the tents. That's what the shelter beds are for. Because about 80% of folks who come through don't need to go into shelter. They need to get assisted with a permanent solution. And that's what we're supposed to do. Next, financial empowerment. We do,
You do that countywide? So you,
Yes.
you coordinate for all the
Yes,
different
we do.
agencies?
yes, we do.
Awesome.
Yes, we do. We're contracted with the county to do that. And they just need to go to a court, as we always say, go to a court. And the case managers there assess, they send a referral to my diversion specialists. And they are housed at all different courts throughout, both remotely and on site. And then we go from there and try to figure out what to do, how to help you. We have a financial empowerment program. Question?
Yeah, so for those who need medical and dental care, how can they find you? And what is the
Thank you, sorry, there will be time for public comment after the presentation. So if you could
Oh,
just
I'm
hold
so
on.
sorry.
That's okay.
He started it.
Sorry.
Thank you, just hold on.
Thank you.
Financial empowerment is actually coaching. We have volunteer coaches who work with people on, say, their budgets, or maybe they never opened a savings account. We help people get savings accounts, but we actually have one-on-one coaching where we talk about how can you make your money work for you instead of it in reverse. And we also do free tax preparation services every spring. Our shelter services have expanded. You've heard about Safe Harbor. We also now have El Camino House and Pacific Inn. Worker Resource Center, day laborers. We have a place in downtown San Mateo where we connect day laborers with honest business folk, because we know at the end of the day, they may have worked for them, but they're not guaranteed that they'll be paid, and they're not going to call a police officer to help. So we have a safe space where people can actually be connected with businesses that can give them employment. Now my food services. So we do things such as we have food pantry, which is a drive-through food that people can come and get their groceries put into their cars. We do this twice. It used to be weekly, but now it is twice a month. And it could be anyone from Menlo Park if they're willing to go to where that service is. They just need to talk to us. We have a dining room. We have mobile meals for those seniors and disabled who are homebound and can't get out. Talk about school pantries. We do meals for senior facilities, the shelter programs, the city and partner agencies. We fed your senior center for about a year or two, your seniors, we took care of your meals, no charge. Oh, no, at one point it was, but for those, when it was time to come pick them up, it was no charge. But we work hand in hand with any of our organizations in any of our cities. We do grocery rescue. Those same, food, those meals are not all purchased, but we actually have been doing grocery rescue for years, where if they can't sell it, they'll give it to us and we turn those into hot and cold meals. Talk about food pharmacy. And then so in this past year, God help us, go ahead. We did over 4 million hot and cold meals within the past fiscal 2023. Ooh, yeah. Oh, I forgot, we also do bag lunches on Saturday and Sunday, 12 to 1. We also provide lunches to, say, San Mateo Medical Center when they do street medicine. They help the homeless, and at the same time, they'll hand them a lunch after they got medical care. Your funds, the nice part. 4, right there. Total financial assistance. This is inclusive of Menlo Park funds, county funds, and foundations, all of the funds that Samaritan House has. In case you don't know, we are the fiscal agent, not only for ourselves, but for all of the core agencies. So there's a lot of shared funds that, that we utilize in the community. So for fiscal year July 1, 2022 through June 30th, the total amount of funds for Menlo Park residents was $159,735. That served 37 households of 91 individuals. And those financial assistance types were rent deposit, utilities, home repair, car repair, shadow debt, and mortgage. Luckily, because it was an emergency disaster relief designation, we could take care of shadow debt. So if somebody actually owed, say if I owed somebody, because I needed to pay my rent, but my friend or my grandmother gave me $20,000. If they could verify it, we could give that money back, so then they could take care of their bills. So we were able to do that. For your fund, and I will say, prior to March 1, there was initially back in 2020, right when the pandemic hit, there were funds that, thank you gave, because you were concerned with tenant relocation. And so those funds prior were utilized, and then the city council, as COVID was hitting, kept changing it so that it would fit the COVID emergency. So we thank you for the first pot of money. This is the latest, which came to us March 1, 2022, $220,000. In this time, since last March, we've spent $57,023. And we do still have a balance of $162,977. You serve 19 households of 55 individuals, and it was specific to rent and deposit. Now, because we have all the other funds, it has been a blessing that we've been able to be very strategic in how we spend funds. We did not have to spend down your funds all at once. And y'all were very generous in giving another pot of money, knowing that people were still in need. You actually set the stage for other cities. When you first did that tenant relocation, that other cities said, you know what, we need a pony up too. So thank you very much, as the city of Menlo Park knew in advance your residents needed help. So now funding is going away. We're going back to pre-COVID, and the funds, whereas I think I had to manage about $10 million, now we're back to closer to 2. And so that means not as many people will be served, but the need is still great. So we've been able to use other funds, but then try to preserve as much of this fund as is possible, because I never want to ever have to say to a Menlo Park resident, no, we don't have any money for you. So with that said, We truly appreciate what you've done, and you can go ahead to the next slide, what you've done in making sure that the residents in this city will continue to be served. We've been around almost 50 years. Our anniversary is next year. Our founder, Dr. Cora Clemens, I believe, was born in Menlo Park. And so our message has always been about how to continue to fight poverty and live lives. When anyone has a need, they just call. They need to leave a message because we do have constant phone calls. Our offices stay busy, but we will try to return your call within one business day. You can visit us online on our website or email us at info@Samaritan House San Mateo. You have to add the San Mateo because there are others around the country, but we're not affiliated. And then we have our offices listed there as well. And with that, I thank you very much for listening. Question.
Thank you. So this topic is now open for public comment. Adam, do you have any? Public, please public comment.
For members of the public who wish to provide public comment, item 1, for virtual participants, please engage the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. For those who are calling from the landline or cell phone, please press *9. For those in person, please complete a speaker card and bring to my desk. Do you have a public comment? And Jones.
Good evening, and thank you, commissioners and staff. It's always a good feeling attending the meetings and with the work that's being done, and that what information is coming across to you that you're working on that is addressing the issues around housing in Menlo Park. And I appreciate the presentation from Samaritan House. I do have a couple of questions, a comment and then a couple of questions. Looking at the population in Menlo Park, and according to the census, the 2020 census, 7.6% are in poverty, living in poverty now. And we know that that is really higher because it's based on a faulty mechanism. If you, unless you put in some kind of, if there's some kind of way so that we're dealing with what you need to live in Menlo Park, not the county, not the state, and not from the federal, and which I believe is where all of that scaling comes from. My question is number 1, do you do follow-up, like 6 months, annual, consistent follow-up with the residents that you have helped? And then how do you do outreach? So that, because I still see, people moving, and I still have people ask, what can be done? There's this problem. So I'm wondering, and this is probably for the commission too, how we can do more robust outreach so that people know what resources are there. And my final comment is going to be, is that even though the pandemic is over and the funds, you still have remaining funds, it's really important to continue serving the residents of Menlo Park. And if we look at the disinvestment report, we have a very high rate of gentrification. And it would be nice if we could support people to stay in a place that they call home. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, I can address that. So because of our contract with the county, anyone who has received financial assistance, we are to make follow-up phone calls within 6 months to see if they're still housed. So our metrics and our outcomes do have to meet our contractual guidelines. So yes, we do follow up. Outreach, we actually have a Romatore who works between our office that serves East Palo Alto, Menlo Park, and our clinic at Redwood City. And that's exactly what the whole idea behind Promotor is to do outreach, because we needed to make sure that people were learning about us, not just at the medical, our clinic, But we have so many other resources that we could provide to folks. They may think it's only one thing, but it's a whole host of things. And whenever we're invited to do any tabling events, as we hear about any community events, we show up. And you're one of the community activists, make sure that we are involved. So we do hear from the residents specifically who say, we need to see you and we need this. And even some of the landlords and property owners reach out as well, who have concerns about their residents. They let us know, and they let the residents know, hey, do you need help with rent? Do you need help with it? You have some great landlords and owners who we partnered with, who also let us know that their tenant is facing a difficult situation. So it all takes community, and we always look for input in what else can we be doing to get information out there.
Do we have any additional public comment on item D1? We do not.
Okay, so this issue is now open for Housing Commission for clarifying questions and discussion. So this is an informational presentation and there will be no action taken on this side.
Okay, I just wanted to say a couple of things. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
To the outreach aspect of that question by Ms. Pam Jones, they were actually present at the resource fair that we had back in June 10th. I was in connection with Miss Robin Fisher, and they were adamant about showing their support, and they were present. So, and we're having another one that we want you guys to come back to. But the second thing is what is the intake process for the healthcare aspect of your program?
So at Redwood City, currently, people can just call or just drop in. They're citing anyone who you cannot have insurance whatsoever. So that means even if you have Medi-Cal or Denti-Cal, we cannot serve you. Now, if you're within that donut, like you about to have insurance, but hasn't started yet, we can help you. But we truly have the clinics reserved only for those who have no insurance whatsoever. So they can call or go straight to the clinic or call either of our offices.
Part B to that is if someone were to have an interest in donating their services and assist with, let's say, dental, how could one be involved with that?
We love volunteers. So if anyone wants to go on our website, there is a section that calls for volunteers, and it lists even some of the interests that we have, because we don't say pull in a volunteer to cut vegetables, but you really want to build a website. So you can start looking at our opportunities online at SamaritanHouseSanMateo.org. So there's a whole volunteer page about our different opportunities and who to contact, and even filling out an interest form.
I just want to say thank you very much for your service to our community. It's a remarkable effort. And so often the effort to provide services for families and individuals in need gets lost on that outreach point. So the fact that you're so deeply in the community, putting the word out that you're there for our most vulnerable is wonderful and greatly appreciated. What can we do to help?
Well, volunteer is one great thing, and just really honestly, when I say it makes your job easier, you're the experts in government. We will send folks to you when it's about government, but when it's about help, what do I do? just tell all of us, just tell anyone. Please call us. There was one thing I should have said that I don't know if anybody knows, we're in partnership with the Joint Powers Authority, which does the 101 toll road. We also have free, well, $100 benefit on a Clipper card for any public transportation or the transponder. So please tell your residents, we want to give them away. It really is quite literally passing that word along. So I forgot to add that. But really, it is just call. And if you want to volunteer, check us out on our website. And we'll go from there because we love our volunteers. We need volunteers desperately to support all the work that we're doing.
Thank you.
Patrice, thank you so much for the presentation. It was wonderful to hear all the things that your organization actually assists with. And I think a lot of the items that pop up to me is the communication and also the outreach that a couple of my colleagues here actually mentioned. And I think, I would really like to see this or your organization kind of be out there promoting a lot more in the Menlo Park area, not just where district I'm from, but just in general in Menlo Park, because I think a lot of these benefits can actually help Menlo Park residents, and particularly because we have, I think, funded you guys with some money. I would like to know, my first question is, out of those 19 households and 55 individuals, how many were from the Belhaven area? And then,
Because I can't answer it today, but I'll give the answer for you.
yeah, I have a couple of them. I think my next question is, the age, you mentioned there is help for kids. I want to know what are the ages that you are assisting kids with meals, backpacks, all that stuff, how that outreach is actually being done for Menlo Park. Also, you mentioned food agency. How you mentioned that there's food if volunteers actually go and pick it up, they can be distributed. But you also said there's a lot of volunteers that you guys actually have. So how do you envision that food being available to maybe the different areas in Belhaven or in different districts in Menlo Park? And how can that food actually get to, and that I'm just vaguely saying that in general, I don't know how that would work. I'm just kind of putting it out there just so if it makes sense. The food pharmacy, I'm very interested in that because I think there's a lot of health issues that are arising now with obesity, diabetes, all that stuff. And I think our Belhaven district can actually benefit from this particular outreach that you guys are doing. So I would like to know if there's any way that we can put together a communication or something that you are talking to our agencies that are currently working in the Belhaven in particularly. I don't want to not include Menlo Park because we are an overall, and I can't just say that Belhaven is in need, but we also probably have other individuals in other districts that probably need this help. They're just not speaking out. They probably don't know about it. So that's another one. You now said that there's a lot of volunteers, so I'm assuming we can definitely work something out with all the questions that I have. But my main concern is the communication and making these services known to residents in Menlo Park, in the cities that you serve. Now, my next question.
Can I address a couple of those things?
Yeah.
I can remember most of it.
I'm so sorry.
Pre-COVID, we actually had an office at the Onetta Harris Center. So we were right in the midst of the community because we realized, first we were at the where the police station was, but we knew that residents may not like that. So we went over to the senior center, but then COVID happened, everything closed down. So now the thought, now that everything is opening back up, is that we do want to have a visibility in the city of Menlo Park. Even one of your developments that just went up, we were trying to be part of it. And that I believe that was said no. So now we are looking for space because it is that time to be back in the community. So if y'all, we can talk later as y'all consider where could my staff be housed in the
I actually
city?
have an idea on what
Okay,
you're
we'll be
saying.
talking then.
Yeah, it's just an idea. I don't have any say on it. It's
Well,
just an
of
idea.
course,
And
of
from there, it
course.
can just go anywhere, right?
Then also for the report, when I reported out on how the funds were utilized, you don't have it here, but there was a report that I did submit for this funding that did include how much money was spent. It is broken down in demographics, so I'm sure the staff will get that report to you. It was submitted just last week because I want to be as current as was possible. And it does address ethnicity, it addresses the need, and so you'll see that report and it could speak to a lot of the things that you were highlighting. Specific to Belhaven, that one I would have to ask the question of where funding was, and I probably have to find out, based on zip codes. But I could potentially get that information.
That would be wonderful.
And I should have said, the clinics are open to serving those 18 and over. I have to say that because with pediatrics, babies do not function on a time clock. So we actually had to just leave it at just 18 and above, because with volunteer doctors, dentists, they do have their own practices that they have to take care of, and they can't necessarily work after the 6 o'clock hour. So
Sounds good.
I will let you
Yeah.
as far as that.
Now, you mentioned also there is a promoter. Is that what you said? Promotor.
That's what's my
Is that
That's what
Italian?
I just.
With that
Yes.
being said, I would like to know if there was any way of maybe collaborating on brochures, posters, something that
Yes.
we actually kind of moved within the agencies that are currently working within Menlo Park. I think that would be very helpful, because then they can print them out at the meetings that they may have. That would be very helpful for the different benefits that you have, particularly right now that kids are going back to school. I think you guys have a great program for the kids, but it would be good for everyone to know.
Yeah, because we do have partnerships with different agencies throughout Menlo
Yeah.
Park. That's why I say this is a great county, because people do come together around what is the needs of our residents.
Yeah. I think those are the only questions. No.
I'm sorry, Virginia, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry, just one more question, I promise. Actually, I'll pass on this, excuse me, I think I took enough questions. Excuse me.
So
No,
for
it's fine.
venue, are you guys, because I know Belhaven Action, or was it Belhaven Together? Forgive me if I get them confused. But I know when they were helping residents get ready for the Gateway Rising and being tenant ready and filling out applications, they were housed at a church for their, the duration of their applications and stuff. Are you guys open to utilizing religious venues for, but maybe once a week housing to have visibility in the community?
We partner with anyone. Faith in Action is one of our partners, and they assist wherever there's the need across the county. So definitely, I'll even say I'm the wife of a minister, so yeah.
That's all I need to know. I can do some legwork and see what I can figure out for visibility.
Ms. Patrice, one more question for you. I know that there was another resident that actually spoke about a project-based voucher or some kind of money that is needed for maybe some project that was leased out or whatnot. How can you actually help in that matter? Because it's not a short term, right? It's a long term where this individual or family would need financial assistance, right?
Correct. So interesting you would say that, because she and I actually spoken a couple of weeks back, because I didn't realize she was coming to speak to this meeting, but she asked about that. What would Samaritan House do? Could they do something like this? So funding was set aside for just such an instance, we are a fiscal agent. We're the ones who have been monitoring funds and administering funds we can do it on an ongoing basis if that's part of your MOU. So if you say set aside $100,000, let's help 5 households over the course of a year to ensure that that gap is met. Yeah, we could help with the assessment and figuring out, is this a household that should utilize your funds? And then do we pay out over? Yes, but it's dependent upon what your guidelines are, what you want in the MOU. Those are types of things that, yes, we could talk about, and how do we work that out? Yeah.
Thank you.
If just to even go further, we're in the midst of talking about guaranteed income programs. What do you do to help parents, particularly single mothers? How do you help fill in the gap that they're struggling, but if I just had time to go to school, get my certification, pay for my childcare, I can move forward with my income. So wouldn't it help if they could get $500, $1,000 over the course of, let's say 12 months, maybe 18, so they can do whatever is necessary, take care of all their bills, and then get to a place where now I can improve on my income and move forward in my life. We're talking about that type of program right now.
What kind of eligibility would be?
We're in the
set
midst of figuring that right out now, so.
With the city, right, that's providing that fund.
Yeah, and so we would be working with the city as to how would you want that done. Now, we have expertise in it, we've been doing it, we program development and assessments and how to figure out eligibility and write guidelines for that. That's part of the role that I play. That's part of my job, which I didn't say, I didn't even introduce myself because I'm the Senior Director of Programs and Services. So part of my role is managing funds and programs and program development and those things that I just spoke of. So that's something that we're in the midst of talking about right now, as far as how can we help families over a period of time. And how do we engage them in other programs that will be supported, such as our financial empowerment program? What would that do if we're also requiring somebody to sit down and actually talk about budgeting? How do we increase our credit score? Do I have a bank account? Let's talk about savings. What does that mean? How do you budget your money? And saying all this, it really is about facilitation of programs. So we're not counselors, we do not tell people what to do, but we present options, we present information, and the person has to make the choice because they will not buy into it unless they're invested in it. So that's part of the thinking that Samaritan House has as we move forward in how do we help people to be successful in their lives.
May I add to your program that you have for single mothers, that if they have children, how are you supporting the children and growing up in education? And also, I think one of my biggest things is having them involved in what's going on in their city, from where you guys are getting funds, right? Like getting involved in, what is changing in the city? How do they have a voice? I think that's one of the things.
Very true, which is why when I talked about We Care, that's part of it is a curriculum with, there's several schools out here. Oh gosh, I forgot the school that really is about teaching the kids just to have empathy for somebody else who's going through their own difficult situation. So we already have something like that in place. So does that mean we have that as support to a household? But one of the big things is childcare. I can't go to work, or I'll just stay at home, and because I can't even afford childcare. What is it now? $700 per person. I know when my kid was 24 and $500 a month was a lot back then. And I know it's triple what it was. So and I have a husband or partner. A lot of people do not. So childcare is a huge barrier to a single parent trying to better themselves and who wants to be a part of their community and wants to be invested in the community. But if the community can invest in the person first, I will tell you, and then I'll be quiet. I had one of my staff who does the grocery rent, the pantry downstairs, came up to my office, gave me a little slip of paper and $5. I'm like, what is this? And it was the gentleman's name, he was a senior, and his telephone number. He said, he's doing better now. This is his little part that he wanted to give back to Samaritan House, $5. I went into the system, found in the database, he'd been coming to our food pantry for about 2-3 years. And he just wanted to say thank you with $5. That still gets me every time when I think about the work that can be done in our community, because when you have somebody who just wants to turn around and give it back because they were served, they were helped by their city, they were helped by their community, their church, or whatever it is, it's all about community. And so when people feel impacted by that they want to give back, that's what we want to keep going. So whatever that looks like for that household, be it a single individual or family, we want to partner with folks, give them information, they can make choices for themselves and then be a better part of our community. So that's my little piece. My 2 cents. And of course, any other questions, y'all can always email me, any thoughts, anything that because if you say you want to volunteer, we're gonna put you to work. So, or anything, any help you need, we're here.
So thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. For the company.
I appreciate, again, we thank you, because really we cannot do our work without cities just like you, who made up of people who really care about their residents, our residents, truly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we are heading into the regular business. The Housing Commission received the information of the presentation in addition to considering policy matters and administrative actions. Assistant Community Development Director Deanna Chow will introduce the item. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Chair Nguyen and Vice Chair Walker and members of the Housing Commission. I'm Deanna Chow, the Assistant Community Development Director. Happy to be here this evening and inspiring conversation that we just had around some of the resources in our community. I hope we continue that conversation right now as we have a conversation around the city's notice of funding availability. So just as a high level, I'm here joined with Sandy Council from the city consulting group will be assisting with the presentation and the staff's recommendations this evening. But just sort of a little brief flashback. We have issued a funding ability at the end of last year. We had 4 applications received as part of the NOFA. We had issued for about $2 million at the time. As you probably saw in the staff report, staff did receive additional VMR funding during the time period from the release to present day. So there is a little bit of additional funding that could be considered for this evening's item. We had a couple of meetings where presentations were given to the Housing Commission just to provide an overview. I do believe we have some of the applicants here with us this evening in case there are additional questions. But with that, I think I will turn it over to Sandy, who will give an overview of the applications and staff recommendation.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Sandy Council. It's nice to be here tonight. I helped staff evaluate the proposals that came in through the notebook that Deanna just described. So just to recap exactly what Deanna said, at the time the NOFA was issued in December, the amount of money available was around $2 million. 4 proposals came in, but the total requests were closer to $15 million. So that always is a challenge, correct? Just to the NOFA itself laid out 16 priorities to evaluate funding projects. I think it's probably impossible for a project to meet all those criteria. And so now we're, you look at trade-offs, what do you feel like is more important? All of the applicants did meet, at least half of the priorities. So they all had a value in meeting city priorities. And they were also proposed, the applications were submitted from experienced developers so that you knew that whoever you gave the money to, they had experience in doing their mission. So the main areas of differences from the various projects that didn't always meet all of the priorities was location and amenities. I know there's a desire for projects to be close to transit and public parks and medical and grocery stores and all of that stuff. The cost per unit varied quite a bit between the proposals. Some proposals can leverage other money too. It's always good if you can put your money in, but somebody else is also putting money in, and a lot of competitive housing funds look at leveraging as a part of the scoring of applications. Readiness, it'd be nice to be able to provide funds for something that's ready to go, so the impact to community sooner. And then I noticed that large families was a priority in the city, and some of the applications actually did address large families, but not all of them. So there's a detailed chart in the staff report that actually took all of the city priorities as well as other just project information like number of units, the order targets, etc. So that everything is like in a chart form, and then you can kind of compare projects. This is just a high level summary of 4 projects, and I'll just go over them real quick. Habitat for Humanity of Greater San Francisco is a new construction homeownership project. In this case, a market rate developer was required to provide 18 affordable ownership units as part of the city's below market rate or BMR program. Has asked Habitat to partner with them by providing the site for 18 affordable units, providing some of the site improvements, cash, and then what Habitat proposes then is the city requirement for ownership is to target the units at moderate income households, but Habitat, what they bring to the picture is bringing it down to affordable units for low income households. And that includes 0 interest mortgage, 0 down payment, home ownership and home buyer education and support. So they really bring the whole package together. The project is, they also are looking at other outside public funding sources to help fill the gap, if you will, besides the city money. And then the residents will have access to all the amenities for the entire housing projects. So they have both public and private outdoor space, etc. And they have half of the units are 4-bedroom units for large families, which is very rare to get those large units, especially for affordable housing programs. So they asked for 2 million, and that's about 111,000. Mid-Penn has a housing project with the Veterans Administration. The VA selected Mid-Penn to be a developer. They had the site, they wanted to do housing for veterans and their families at risk of homelessness. So that's really the lowest income category, extremely low, very low households. So Mid-Penn has developed a proposal for 62 units targeted to those extremely low, very low income households. The VA has committed to donating the land. They already have some funding from the county of San Mateo for pre-development expenses. And then they just this last month, put in the application to the state for a number of housing programs. We have now this master application process. So they're well on their way to pulling together all the funding sources. Their project also has indoor and outdoor community spaces, and they provide support services for the residents there. That also, I guess, new construction is relevant. And then Rebuilding Together Peninsula is a program to do preservation. It's rehabilitation of owner occupied houses. It's targeting the Bellhaven neighborhood. They've already identified 8 owners who are actually range from very low to low income, who need repairs on their home. Now, Rebuilding Together already has this program in place. They get money each year from the county. But the county money is only allows them to usually provide assistance to maybe 3 households in Menlo Park. And the repairs are much more in scope. They're about usually $5,000 to $10,000. And what they're finding out when they go out to people's houses is their repair needs are much greater. So that's why they propose this sort of expansion of their current program to, number one, provide more repairs and to also assist more households. These, like I said, the owners have already been selected and found to be eligible. They've even done preliminary scope of work. So for the readiness perspective, this project is ready to go, should they get funding. And they anticipate that each repair would take about 3 months per location. So they asked for $180,000, which is about $22,000 each. Then HIP Housing has a proposal. This was a market rate developer, Prince Street Properties, obtained planning approvals to build 9 units on a small site on El Camino. Those 9 units, so they have planning approvals for that project already. Those 9 units were 3 of the 9 units were to fulfill their affordable housing obligation from another project. So they wanted to do 3 affordable units here. So the initial concept was 3 affordable units and 6 market rate units. And then, then the concept of what about working with HIP Housing to make the whole project affordable, so all 9 units would be affordable. So, and then when they put this application together, this was still in the idea stage. So a lot of the assumptions and a lot of the things that they were looking at were not totally fleshed out, but they wanted to pursue it. You know, wouldn't that be great? The site is right downtown. It's right on El Camino, and so that really was a rare opportunity to get affordable housing downtown, and also to meet the city's goals about spreading affordable housing citywide and all in just the same neighborhoods. So that's why HIP was interested, and I think city staff was interested in pursuing that and just seeing what could be done. However, the challenges are it's a really small site. You only get 9 units of the way it's proposed right now. HIP Housing cannot go after a lot of the funding sources that MidPen and Habitat do. They're either just not eligible for, or they're not, mostly they're not competitive. And then they have high construction costs because there's a small amount of units on the property. They could not identify any other public funding, even at the county of San Mateo, that would work for this project other than city funds. All they have lined up right now is the land, which is worth something, and the market rate, or the project could generate a small construction loan from a private lender. But unfortunately, the gap is $11 million, which is about $1.2 million to get it. Now, they did look at doing some slight modifications to the existing plans, they could get 12 units. I think Kate talked about this in her presentation. And they even looked at what if they just made major revisions to the project, they could get 18 units. So as if they are able to get more units, 12 or 18, it helps with the construction cost per unit to go down. But they're still faced with that challenge. Where else can we find money besides the city? Where can we find it? So I think that project needs to be talked about a little more, fleshed out a little more. So as a result of that, the staff recommendation, since there is this extra money that did come in, staff is recommending that the Housing Commission make these recommendations to the council to go ahead and use some of that extra money that came in from the fee that was paid in the spring, and go ahead and fully fund the request of $2 million to Habitat, 18 new ownership units, 2 million to Mid-Penn for 62 new rental units for veterans, and that also serves the special need of preventing homelessness. And then $180,000 to rebuild together to preserve 8 existing ownership units. So you get a nice mix here, actually. You get some ownership, you get some rental, you get a variety of income groups, you get a little bit of special needs housing, you get a little bit of both housing and neighborhood preservation. So I think it's great that you have these housing opportunities to even consider all of these. Like I said, nothing's going to hit the 16 points entirely, but we should have a nice cross section here, a variety of housing, because everybody needs housing at every level, every income. So that's why staff recommended that for your consideration. So that's really all I was going to present. And so now it's you to discuss and ask questions.
No, they're both of us. Madam, do you have any public comment on this item?
For members of the public who wish to provide public comment on item D1, E1, for virtual participants, please engage the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. For those who are calling in from the landline or cell phone, please press *9. For those in person, please include a speaker card at the type desk. Not seeing any hands. To give everyone a moment, if they do have public comment, we did receive a letter from Housing post agenda publishing, and they could not be here tonight. So as part of public comment, we'll share that letter for people just for a minute to read it. It was forwarded to the commissioners, but we'll share it for the public to view.
So this item is not open for Housing Commission clarifying questions, discussions, and million from the BMR housing funds, the three NOFA 2022 applicants to support affordable housing activity.
I did have one. Oh, I'm sorry, it glitched. I can wait.
I just, a couple things. I mean, I think it's so nice to be able to like ease up the pressure a little bit just about the lack of housing. That it's sad, I look forward to hearing more if the HIP housing can make the 1162 project more affordable per unit. I mean, I understand why they didn't get the funding this time. It's a lot for smaller units. It strikes me that as we try to get more housing downtown, we're gonna just run into this problem a lot. It's just expensive. I had a question about the veteran housing. It's so important to tackle the homeless veteran population. I'm wondering, will there be a preference given to existing Menlo Park residents?
No, from what I read, it's only veterans. I have the same question you did. I would like it if it's some units that were designated to Menlo Park residents. Not just veterans, because I think it's last year that it's only for veterans and families.
Yeah, because it's the veterans land.
This is
Correct.
But whether there's an opportunity to hire the veteran from Menlo Park, I think someone who might be on the.
Yes.
So I'm a little biased because I'm a veteran. So all the people are veterans. I mean, like, just like Samaritan House, I was a single mother with no money, that evicted from apartment in City Menlo Park 30 years ago. It was very difficult. There was no veteran housing. There was nothing. There was no resource for me, my children. I mean, we were like, I think we were broke for like a few days when we was actually sleeping in cars. But the thing is, look, I'm biased in that sense, so maybe I shouldn't talk about it, but I know that there are veterans who do live in Menlo Park boundaries that are in that area, like Bellhaven and Coleman area right there. So I don't know. And it's also, 795 is on, on the VA land, the government land. So I believe that if anything, it should be designated to veterans only, if they have the space.
Yeah, so veterans only, but is there something in price?
May I ask a point of order? Does our housing commission have any authority to try and adjust these proposals from developers in any way?
So thank you for the comment. So you could provide your feedback on how, if there are preferences, if there are certain conditions tied to the funding. So yes, you can provide that feedback.
So these would be preferences from the housing commission to the city council saying the housing commission recommends this funding by the city council with these additional conditions or recommendations?
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
I'm just asking clarifying questions. I'm not saying they can't have the money.
I did promote Cynthia Uzad from Independent. She would like to speak on that.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks for your time here. So I just wanted to clarify one thing. So the referrals that we're expecting for the VA Menlo Park project are coming through the Veterans Affairs directly, and also through the coordinated entry system based on some of the funding, the funding applications we've received. So there will be a lot of outreach to local shelters because the VA has a lot of, they pull in the referrals from different sources. So, there will be a lot of local households that we will be housing, but at this time, I'm not sure it would be possible to have or it would require more conversation about the Menlo Park preference. But just wanted to clarify that piece and just provide that bit of information, and happy to answer more questions. Thank you.
I'll just add, when the developers are putting these deals together and they're trying to get 5 to 10 different funding sources, they'll all have their own rules. And sometimes the local preference criteria is not allowed by certain funding sources. So it's always this dance that you do to try to market more to your local residents, or if you can have a set aside, it's always a challenge.
There are also homeless veterans here in the county because our church, Menlo Press, every November, we host homeless people, and some of those people are veterans. So, I mean, I think this is a good, but look, it's everybody, right? It's okay. But I want to say about him though, I'm sad that we cannot provide it any funding. But the 50,000 funding they're asking for, is that even at all feasible? Is that even viable in terms of, like in terms of the whole picture, like even if that's going to make a difference for them for this 50,000 pre-funding they're asking for?
Yeah, so I think we would want to bring that back for a separate consideration. So him to provide that to us, sort of as what would be the sort of appropriate next step for them to even determine if this is a feasible project. So that funding that they're requesting would be for that pre-development, like maybe to, this is being mentioned that they were working with the Navy brothers to, figure out what's the construction cost, what sort of site planning might be able to do, some money engaged a designer and architect. So that helps them get some of those expenses paid for to see what might be viable to then present a project that might be more acceptable or, more in line with some of the criteria that are going to be outlined. So, but I would say that that's a different sort of consideration. We need to sort of flesh
I
out
know
how to be. And yeah, so it would be for another meeting that we would bring
But
up.
we wouldn't have enough funds in our VMR funds for this addition. I mean, I'm just wondering.
For the pre-development funds.
Yeah.
So yes, we do have remaining funds that can be considered. Yes, we don't have
felt like we
additional
maxed
funds
out.
for their full 11 million, but we have for the pre-development funds, we do have some funding for.
So if we approve this 4.18, we do have enough money for that.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes, so that is something that the Housing Commission and your principal, yes, there's funding.
So do we have any more? I think Walker, Vice Chair Walker was gonna say.
Yeah, so I was looking at the staff report for this meeting and then the past, May 3rd, when they first presented, I'm speaking, to the HIP housing. And their initial requested amount was 5 million, and then it jumped to, 11. So I was looking for why.
Yeah, I can answer that. So, since the NOVA was published, another developer has paid its fee for $5 million into the fund. HIP at that time was hoping that 5 million could go directly to them. So then they only needed another 5. Well, since then, the developer actually paid it to the city already. They were trying, and this was very preliminary. They were trying to figure out how to get the land donation, and maybe we could get this developer's fee, and then that left a gap of 5. But as it turned out, that developer paid it to the city. So the 5 and 5 is, well, 11. So that's the difference. Was they were hoping to get that fee directly. They're hoping to negotiate a situation with it directly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and it still would have been $11 million. It just would have been in 2 pieces.
And then one more, and I'm out your hair. For Mid-Penn, I was reading in the staff report that it said that aside from the pre-development donation that was given, that the county typically will fund majorly thereafter. And you may have already answered it, so excuse me if I'm having you repeat it. Has that thereafter been secured, or are we working on that?
They still need to go back to the county for the extra actual development money. They got the pre-development money last year, I think.
And actually, I can go ahead and jump in. There's been a lot of movement in the last couple months, actually, since we last met with you guys. And it's all good news. So since we met in, what was it, May, we were awarded affordable housing program funds from the Federal Home Loan Bank of San Francisco. So that's $1 million of funds. And then we were also recently awarded additional county funds. It's still going through, its formal process, but we had a hearing last week where there was a staff recommendation and vote from the board on awarding us the additional funds that, we were requesting. So good news there, lots of things coming together. So this is really, we're kind of getting down to, the final pieces of financing that we need to apply for state or tax credits in the beginning of next year. So we're all really excited, and I appreciate that question. Give me an opportunity to give that update.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I have two questions for Min-Pen. I think one of them was the zoning, or not the zoning, but just the traffic that's going to create the construction. Is there any surveying? How are you guys going to mitigate that traffic? It's already horrible and bad. So, with the construction, I'm assuming it's going to get worse. Is there any talks about how that's going to be mitigated, or, how is it going to impact the residents, city? And then number two, there is, you mentioned a community garden under the on-site amenities. What does that look like? It just says community gardens, but I'd be kind of curious to know what that looks like. And the reason why is because if we're gonna, if this is gonna be built, maybe having a community garden where the residents could actually have their own beds and do their, cultivate their own organic foods and all that stuff, it would be helpful to them also, because they can, utilize it for their food. But, it just depends on how this community garden actually is being visualized.
Thanks for those questions. So I'll start with the traffic question during construction. So we'll be working really closely with our general contractor, who will be managing kind of the traffic control plan. Some ways that we've, other projects have mitigated traffic issues in the past has been, working on the road or underground utilities in the evening or at night, so that it's not during major traffic hours. Limiting large trucks and deliveries during peak commute hours. So there's a lot of ways that our general contractor will basically create a plan to adjust for the traffic on Willow Road. So that's something that over the coming months, as we get closer to construction, is something that we'll have more conversations about. But it's definitely a concern that is high on our list, and we want to make sure that we're not adding to or creating unnecessary traffic on Willow Road. And then in regard to the community garden, so there's a couple things. There's a lot of open space, residential outdoor open space on the site. And one of the design concepts, or one of the designs or community garden aspects that we're going to have is vegetable and garden beds for residents to be able to grow vegetables in, and herbs and things like that. Another feature is we have walking paths, a dog run, like a meditation circle, which is basically just kind of an area that is supposed to be meditative and peaceful and has benches, and is surrounded by the really lush trees and vegetation on the site. So it has it's a diverse use of the land and space, but definitely the community garden and use of vegetable beds and things like that were actually one of the first things on our list when we were thinking and conceptualizing the outdoor amenity space.
Are you guys planning to have a small gym in the facility? Just because, I think that's very much needed in today's, in general today, for individuals to stay healthy. And I think being that this is a population that probably needs support in every aspect and growing into the community and being, residents and all that stuff, I think a gym, is there a conversation about having that in the facility?
So that's actually something we're not planning to have within the residential space, but given kind of the larger outdoor open space, we're incorporating kind of walking paths and other options for outdoor exercise. But it's not something currently that is to be included in the community indoor space. And I just want to add that kind of the amenities on the site were also planned with input from the Veterans Affairs. So we definitely sought feedback on kind of what would be helpful for veteran residents and things like that. So thank you.
I think, I'm so sorry, one more question. With that being said, it's a family units. What is the smoking criteria there? How far are they going to be allowed? You have a garden. Individuals will probably utilize that area to go and smoke, but you know, it's family units. What are you guys thinking about that as well?
So there's because we're applying for tax credit, there are requirements through TCAC that I think I'm not going to quote it exactly, but it's 20 to 30 feet from the building where residents can smoke. So it's just it's a requirement that I believe we're supposed to adhere to, I believe that's still relevant, but that's what's been told to me in the past. So there has to be some sort of buffer between the building and the area in which folks smoke. But that's really kind of the only guidance that that we're required to comply with, if that helps. And I will add that, you know, in addition to kind of our resident services team is really experienced in like a number of things and support for residents. And some of that involves, you know, smoking cessation. You know, it's not our primary goal, but there are programs that are offered to help folks who do want to stop smoking, you know, reduce their, address that habit. But that's not, you know, the main goal of our services, but just wanted to add that that is something that, you know, they have experience with or connecting folks with within the community.
Thank you.
So, do we have any more other comments before we take a vote?
I had one more, you guys. I'm so sorry. I got all the questions. No, last one. I know you all partnered with Bellhaven Action to do the Gateway Rising, or how are you guys going to market for tenants for the vets for this particular project?
Sorry, just to clarify, you're asking kind of how our marketing plan will include Bellhaven Action Network, like marketing to those living in the Bellhaven community. Is that what you're asking?
Not necessarily regular residents, specifically vets. Where are you pulling the outreach, or I guess who are you going to be? Where? How are you outreaching for the vets? Are you going to be at the VA pulling them for this unit, or how are we outreaching?
Yeah. So no, I thanks for clarifying. I hear what you're asking. So yeah, so since the Veteran Affairs is one of the main agencies that's going to be making the referrals, they will be pulling from the different agencies and groups that they work with. And that includes the coordinated entry system, different shelters that they partner with. And one other thing is that because we have HUD-VASH project-based vouchers, what I understand is that once a project comes online that has these vouchers, it's almost like there's an alert out to different shelters and other organizations that, you know, there are HUD-VASH vouchers placed at this project. So there's, I think, a number of ways that, you know, we're marketing through the VA and through kind of the financing, the vouchers that we have at the property. Thanks for that question.
You said that you worked with the agencies earlier, so forgive me for saying that.
No, it's a good question. It's good clarifying. Thanks.
So I think we need to have a motion now.
Move the staff recommendation.
Any second?
I second that.
Okay.
And a roll call vote, Commissioner Compost.
Yeah.
Commissioner Leach,
Yes.
Commissioner Merriman, absent. Chair Nguyen.
Aye.
Commissioner Pimentel.
Aye.
Commissioner Portillo.
Aye.
Vice Chair Walker.
Aye.
The motion passes 6-0.
So do we have any individual commissioner updates? Okay. Any recommendation for future agenda? Okay. Okay, well, thank you all, meeting adjourned at 8:27.
Actually,
Oh, okay, sorry,
sorry.
I missed the last page, I have updates.
We are very happy to introduce our new housing manager, Tim Long.
Welcome.
So thank you very much for that warm welcome. I'm excited to be working with you in the future on housing issues in Menlo Park. We all know that this region has a dire need for housing, but just housing, especially affordable though. And so I look forward to working with you on this very important issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and
Thank you.
welcome.
And very much.
And then I have one update on a future update for the community outreach team. We will be meeting tomorrow, not you and I, but staff will be meeting tomorrow to get further guidance on community outreach events. So I can then give you all further guidance on the next event. So stay tuned.
I'm sorry, am I part of that?
Yes.
Oh, great.
I mean, if you like.
I would love to.
Okay.
And if I may just jump in if you were done with your update, so I just want to put on people's calendar, so we're going to be continuing our housing element zoning conversation. So we have 2 meetings coming up. So the first one is the planning commission study session, so that will be on Monday, the 14th of August. That night, there will also be consideration for the 123 Independence Project. So part of that is the Habitat for Humanity 18-unit townhome project that you recommended on the note this evening. So the full project is going before the planning commission on that meeting. So you get a lot of housing talk that night. So that's Monday, the 14th. Planning commission begins at 7 p.m. And then we'll be having a city council study session again on zoning on the following week. So it's a special city council meeting. It's on the 22nd, and that will start at 6 p.m. So I invite you, members of the public, we're listening to attend.
Okay. We can do all of this over Zoom. I'm having surgery in 2 days and I will not be able to drive or go anywhere for 3 months, so.
I wish you
So,
would.
but we can, I can attend over Zoom, yes? Both.
Let's coordinate offline and yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deanna. Adam, will this be available online to check so I can add it to my calendar, or will you be sending reminders just so that, you know?
Happy to send you guys these dates, yes.
you know?
And you will also be getting a mailer in your inbox, in your postal box. So yes, look out for that.
I know those.
Okay. Okay. So meeting is adjourned at 8:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe.